Good afternoon, everyone. I believe it says the broadcast has started, so we're good. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. This is our fourth webinar in the series on universal design for learning and the CTE classroom. And today we're going to explore resources. We're going to be demonstrating some of the ways in which you will use universal design, and we're going to show you some great resources around just to get everybody started. So a couple things I want to start off with is I'd like to just start off with a couple polling questions out there. So first poll will be, how well do you know UDL? So let's launch that poll. Go ahead and respond here. So how well do you know universal design? Not at all, somewhat, had a training or two, or you could write a book. Let's see where everybody is at as we are coming in today. And as you're filling out the poll, I'm going to go through some housekeeping items. My name is Amy Julian. I am the director for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. And we are here today working with Universal Design for Learning. Now, this is number 4 of a 4-part series. So today is kind of the capstone. We're really looking at what are the resources out there. We're going to demonstrate some UDL. I'm going to show you how to turn on things like this wonderful closed captioning. And then we're going to share off some resources. So this will be a fun, engaging 45 minutes to half hour that we have together today. So our poll, I'm going to take a second there. Oh, all of you are in listen only mode, but I do want to walk you through some great ways in which you can engage. So you're able to raise your hand. So if you want to raise your hand, please do so, and I can unmute you, and you can engage that way. Or you can post questions in the question box, and we can address the questions. And so we'll talk a little bit about how that looks and how you can use that when you're teaching online as well. Let's go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So where is everyone? We have about 25% of you are just to learn what you can. You're not at all. You haven't heard of UDL before. 25% are at somewhat, and 50% have had a training or two. So I think we have a nice variety of where everybody is. So let's dive in a little bit here with, I'm going to start with the definition and a couple things, but I'm really going to kind of walk you through just demonstrating some stuff. So first of all, definition, get all the bureaucratic stuff out of the way. Universal design is a term that means scientifically valid framework for guiding educational practices that provide flexibility in the way information is presented, in the way students respond or demonstrate knowledge and skills, and in the way students engage or are engaged. We use universal design to reduce barriers in instruction, provide appropriate accommodations, supports, and challenges, and maintain high achievement expectations for all students. Universal design has been used and really came into its own around the 1990s with the passage of ADA and the idea of including individuals with disabilities and limited English proficient students in our curriculum. However, UDL is something that you can use that will really benefit all students. So as I said, today we're going to talk a little about resources, and I'm going to demonstrate a couple things. The first thing I want to talk about is things that you can do with your classroom. So many of you are online, many of you are in a virtual classroom, or many of you are in person some days and online other days, or there's quite a few of you who are superstars and you are teaching in person and online simultaneously. Wow, kudos to you. So in your online learning environment or in your in-person learning environment, there are things that you can do, to self-regulate. So you can sit anywhere you want. Right now, the nice, beautiful thing about virtual is I could be sitting outside, I could be standing, I could be walking, I could be eating my lunch, I could be fidgeting, tapping my foot. So could all of you. I don't know if Laura's doing that, I don't know if Jen's doing that or Cynthia, but I know you could be because we're all online for this particular training. In your classroom, think about what those self-regulation mechanisms are and what those look like, and see if there are things you can do to help your students really self-regulate. Again, with the 6 feet and all of that, there's a little bit more barriers going on, but things to think about. So what are the acts? Today we have an agenda, and we've talked over the course of the last couple trainings that we really want individuals to know their learning outcomes. So today you have your agenda, and we'll walk through that in a little bit. You have your chat box. You can chat or ask questions. You can raise your hand, or you can doodle, and that would be something that you would do on your own at home. Then things that we have shared. You have the screens, the screen that you're seeing that's shared. You have a copy of the slides that will be shared out with the evaluation that comes out tomorrow. And then you also have closed captionings on. So you're able to perceive and engage in closed captioning. Things that I do want to point you to as well as in the handouts. There are 3 handouts in there that are fantastic resources that we have from CAST, and we'll get to those in just a second. So really, the purpose of today is to provide an overview of UDL. We're going to go through that really quickly. We're going to talk about core concepts of implicit variability. Again, nice introduction there. We're going to explore applications of UDL in the classroom. I'm hoping that you're amazed by how you can engage with universal design every day. And at some point during this training, I hope you gasp, not for air, just, oh, that's amazing. I hope you laugh, and I hope you nod your head. Now, I can't see you, but that's another universal design thing that you might be able to see me. So that's the other thing that we talk about with UDL, and it is that we should turn on our camera. So now you should be able to see me, and hello, everyone. This is something that we can do to really engage with our students and allow them to see who we are, what we look like, if we're not able to do those hybrid platforms. So I'm going to take us out of the slideshow here for a second, and I want to pop over and show a video to you. So let's take a second and let me show.
Universal Design for Learning, UDL, is an approach to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all learners. By setting clear, rigorous goals, anticipating barriers, and proactively designing to minimize those barriers. UDL guidelines are grounded in research and learning sciences, cognitive science, cognitive neuroscience, neuropsychology, and neuroscience. Neuroscience tells us the brain has 3 brain networks: one for recognition, or get of learning, one for skills and strategies, or how of learning, and one for choosing and prioritizing, the plans of learning. How do we design learning plans for grades, surveys, and assessments?
Sorry.
For everyone? Yeah, based on the learning goal. The range and source of human variability addressing the velocity of learning. UDL was the best solution
So that is a fun little video that I wanted to show you. I see there's a question there. So this is another big resource I want to show you all, looking at CAST resources. So remote learning resources. And let's start with this page though. So learning resources, you have your next UDL awaits. These are some great books. These have been around for a while now. Remote learning resources will pop over to right here. And so there's accessibility materials for technology. there's inclusive course design, and then there's explorer guidance. The third one there was shared during the second webinar, and then the rest of these, again, are available. I can post this into the chat real quick. I could get this to. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties. There it is. Thank you. So there's the website that I'm looking at. And this is really looking at all of those fun resources that CAST has. And we talked about free resources in the other 3 webinars, but I wanted to kind of take you in and let you look around. Executive functioning on online environments, and then providing options for executive functions. If you are interested, there is a webinar next Tuesday at 10 a.m. The Autism Training and Technical Assistance Project is putting that on, and it's on executive function in the era of COVID with students who are on the spectrum. So that's a great resource and a great website there that I can put in the chat as well. The other thing I want to show you back over here, and I'll slow down since I'm going a little fast there, is key questions to consider when planning a lesson, UDL tips, learning experiences, and these are 2 handouts that are in your chat. I'm not in your chat, in your handouts down there. So the UDL planning is CAST UDL planning. And then you also have UDL tips for design for learning experiences, which is this resource here. And then there's also a great publication that I put in there on differentiated instruction and implications for UDL implementation. So check out those great resources. And then I will provide a link to the video. There is always that lovely thing of trying to get that back up, trying to get the video to work. So I will provide you the UDL so you can watch that another time, or you can go to our ICSPS website and it's linked there. I'll give you that link. So let's head back over to the presentation, and I want to ask you a polling question as we're going through, just kind of see where you are. And I just, of course, lost my polls wherever they went. Okay, let's pause back over here. And so where do you see UDL? So let's ask this question as we get started here. And you can answer multiple areas. Do you see it in your kitchen? There are a lot of places where you see universal design within those handheld, any apparatus, a potato peeler or something like that. Do you see it in your car? Are you able to adjust your seat in your car, adjust your steering wheel? That's universal design. Do you see it in your classroom? Or if you're walking into the store, do the doors open for you? Because that's universal design and architecture as well. So where do you see UDL? %100 of you are, well, I'll give you a second to answer. You're still coming in pretty good. So let's close there and share the responses. And so 40% of you see it in your kitchen, 80% of you see it in your car, 100% of you see it in your classroom, and then 80% of you see it on your way to the store. I'd like you to post in the question box there where it is that, what are some examples in your classroom? What are some examples of universal design? You say you see it in your classroom. Share with me some examples of where you see universal design in your classroom. I'll give you a minute to type. I need to, and let me close out the poll. There you go. All right, we should be back to a good spot there. So in the question box there or in the chat pane, if you are on the app or on a iPad, it's going to show up as a question chat. If you are in the question, if you are on your PC or Mac, it is going to be in the question box itself. Excellent. Different modes of feedback. Audio, written, or video feedback. Fantastic. Any place else that we see UDL? Now, all of you mentioned that it was in your classroom. So where do you see it in your classroom? All right, I'll give you a second to type as we're going to go on moving forward. So again, we've covered some resources. I've shared with you a video. The video did kind of cover some of the things that we're going to move through at a nice click. But I think we have individuals at different levels, so we want to be sure that everybody gets what they need out of our time together today. So universal design for learning is a core concept that resides in architecture, neuroscience, and learning. In architecture, we see it and have seen it for a long time in those self-moving doors, in the door handles that you can grasp or you can open with a closed fist, in your office chair maybe. If your office chair, you're able to move up and down and around or twitch in. That is something that is universal design. We also see it in neuroscience. And one of the things that neuroscience tells us is that within universal design, you have the brain is wanting to go through and determine what is important. So there are things that we can do in our curriculum and things that we can do in the presentation of our curriculum that help the brains of our students know what's important. And then neuroscience really lends itself to learning, and it does enhance and support learning. One of the things that I want to be clear about is that universal design is not saying that we should water down the curriculum. It is not saying that we should change our curriculum. It is small little things that we can do to enhance our curriculum. And it is also just a lens in which you use to look at the world. So again, UDL is not a checklist. I'm not going to leave you with a checklist today. What I am going to leave you with is some nice ideas of things that you can do. One of the first key concepts of universal design is that the barrier is in the environment, not the learner. And so I challenge you to think about that in the context of your classroom and your students. How do you engage with your students and helping them understand that the barrier is not within them, but within the environment? If you go back and look at the first training that we did together, we showed the video on average and how the Air Force used to design airplanes on average. And if you design for average, you design for no one, because no one actually meets that average. And so what we can do to really enhance our education by providing accommodations. I did see that one of you had an issue with the video. There's another video I'd like to show, but I want to make sure you all can hear it. So if you were not able to hear the video, please post that in the chat as well. So understanding variability, and we've talked about this quite a bit as we've walked through this week. And last week, we talked about the idea of understanding variability, the dinner party analogy. So in the time that is not COVID, we wanted to think about the idea of everyone's coming to my house for a lovely dinner. And for that dinner, I'm going to serve this beautiful Mexican lasagna. And everyone getting the same thing when they come in for dinner, everyone sitting at the table. And so that's one of the things that we want to talk about is that, does that work for everybody? So if I'm going to serve this, go ahead and write in the chat there. If I'm going to serve this, does everybody find that appealing? Does it look good? I mean, we're at 2:30. Is this a good snack time or maybe lunch? Maybe you all missed lunch today. I've done that a couple times. Any issues with what I would be serving for dinner? Great, thank you. If you're a vegetarian, this doesn't really work for you, right? If you're lactose intolerant, this doesn't really work. So when you look at designing for variability, you want your dinner party, maybe you have somebody who is gluten-free, maybe you have somebody who is lactose intolerant, maybe you have somebody who's vegetarian. And so because of that, you want to be sure that you're designing your dinner party and your curriculum that has a proactive menu design. That if I sat these items out, everybody could find what they need and make what they need and have whatever they want that evening for dinner. I do want to stress and talk about the fact that choice is not the same as variety. And so when we look at, and we've learned over the last 2 weeks together, multiple means of engagement and multiple means of assessment, that doesn't mean like on Monday we take tests, on Tuesday we engage through quizzes, and Wednesday we all stand up and do presentations, and Thursday we're acting out in sign language what we're going to be learning for the day. It's not choice. It's not the same thing as variety. So we want to be sure that we're using multiple means throughout all of our instruction and engaging with our students. Any questions so far? Again, this is the capstone. This is kind of everything being thrown a little quickly. And so variability is contextual. And one of the things that CAS tells us is that there's different ways in which you look at different situations and different ways in which you will approach those situations. So for example, if you are a North person, you like to take action, try new things, plunge in. If you are an East person, you like to look at the big picture, all the possibilities, and then plunge in. If you look at the South picture, you like to consider everyone's feelings, hear all the voices, and then take an action. And if you're from West, you like to know the who, the what, the when, the where, the how before acting. And I think one of the things that we want to remember is that variability is contextual. So the way in which we act in a situation is very different and unique to that situation, as it is for our students. So you might have a student who is super shy in math, does not engage in math, does not talk in math, but when you get him in an ag classroom, he is in his element, he is doing a fantastic job, and he's rolling with everything, right? Variability is very contextual. Or you might have somebody who does not feel as comfortable in, say, an agribusiness class, but does really well in a CNA class. Understand that the way in which they approach, your students approach the curriculum is also the way in which you approach different things. Let's take it on a different element. So scenario, we're going to plan a party for your best friend, okay? So all of us are going to get together. We're going to plan a party for our best friend. And we want to look at, are we a North? Are we going to plunge right in, set the date, find the place, find the location, invites out, we're good? Are we an East? Are we going to look at the big picture? Is there plenty of parking? Do they serve the wine that my friend likes or the beer that my friend likes? Or do they have the menu that my friend likes? Consider others' feelings. Is that South? Is someone going to be offended if they're not invited? Should we invite mom, brother, sister, things of that nature? Or are we a West? Do we pay attention to the details? Also understand that variability is contextual. So maybe you were a North pre-COVID, but now you're a South when planning any events. So why don't you go ahead and post there in the chat where you are in this scenario. Are you a North, East, South, or West? Which one would you define yourself as? All right, we have some East, fantastic. Where do you see yourself? Any Norths out there? A Southwest, I like it. Excellent, thank you. So those are the different ways in which you're looking at variability. And the reason we spend time on that is because UDL, variability is the norm. And so variability is not only contextual, depending on the situation and the circumstances and all those things, but it's also the norm. Here's something that's really important and that I'm hoping those of you who are in my level ones coming in didn't really get too freaked out as we were talking about variability is the norm. Every student is unique. What does that mean for my curriculum? So variability is predictable. In learning, you can design for variability. So that's fantastic for us as educators to understand that we can design for predictability. We can design for variability. We can design for those unique things that our students might want, need, or ask for. So the UDL brain, or UDL and the brain, is looking at the strategic network, the how, the why, and the what. We want to design for the why of learning. We want to be sure our curriculum answers that question of the why of learning. We want to be sure that we're looking at the strategic, the how we are planning to engage, how we are writing the curriculum, but we want to be sure we're addressing the why. And the recognition of the what. What are we going to be doing? A couple bullet points there that are really important. There is no average brain. We're coming up on, we're in October, and there's tons of fun little Halloween movies out there that talks about normal and abnormal and all of that wonderful stuff, but there is no average brain. And so what I mean by that is that if you design your curriculum for the average, if you design for the middle ground, you're not going to engage with most of your students. You want to engage with variability. You want to plan with variability. So then you engage and hit more of your targets. The brain has incredible plasticity. And this is something we've known for a great many years. The research on this is ever growing. The brain experiences then increased plasticity, increase that ability to learn. And we know this because we're educators, right? We would not go into education if we thought, oh, we're not ever able to teach anything, we're not going to be able to learn. But the brain is very plastic and it is able to learn. And then goals drive the nervous system. And I spoke about this just a little bit ago, but when you're looking at developing curriculum, the brain is looking for what is important. The brain is looking for how do we commit items to memory. It's very goal-driven. The way neuroscience has categorized the brain is we're very goal-driven in the nervous system. So what can we do as educators to help our students see what those goals are? And we'll talk about some of the strategies right now. So things that you can do to apply universal design to your curriculum is you can post your lesson plans, post your lesson goals. This is not anything revolutionary, and I want to really throw that out there that universal design is not like I'm going to tell you how to rewrite your whole curriculum. Universal design is not like the Common Core coming in and changing up everything. Universal design is small little things that you can do that will make a big difference for your students. So as you develop your curriculum, as you develop your lesson plans, you have lesson goals, right? I hope I'm seeing some nodding out there. And yes, you have those lesson goals. So share those with your students. What is the purpose of our lesson today? Easy peasy, right? Assignment options. Not every student is the best test taker. Not every student is the best public speaker. And every student has different strengths. You know this, you're educators. So give your students assignment options. How can they show their mastery of a particular topic, comments, section, skill with different assignment options? Maybe some will write a paper, maybe some will demonstrate. I'm hoping I'm talking to a lot of CTE teachers out here, and there's a lot of different ways in which you can show mastery of a particular area, right? So give them some assignment options. Flexible workspace is that third little house there, and the house is there on purpose because right now, I know in my personal family, I have one child who goes to school in person 4 days a week and is virtual 1 day a week. Another child who goes to school in person 2 days a week and is home remotely 3 days a week. And another child who is in person, but the teacher is also teaching the class in person and remotely. Again, wow to those teachers. So flexible workspace. At home, that can be kind of a lot of things. It can be that they are able to do their assignment from the kitchen table. But in a classroom, when we're all together, what does that look like? Is your classroom inviting? Has COVID impacted that? I'm going to guess yes. But how do we create flexible workspaces? Regular feedback is a great way to apply universal design to your classroom and to your instruction and to your engagement with your students. I'm going to assume that most of you, if not all of you, always give regular feedback. Am I correct? Am I seeing some nodding heads? But do you tell them when you give an assignment, I will get you your results, I will get you your graded papers back within 3 days, within 1 day, by this date? Do you spend time and maybe contact each student independently or ask them to contact you independently? Do you set up regular office hours? And I know office hours tends to be an academic term that comes from the collegiate level, but at the same time, office hours is kind of a concept more so than a term. And in the concept of office hours is that availability of an instructor, teacher to their students for a particular set of time. So have you considered that school gets out at 2 o'clock, I'm going to have office hours from 2:15 or maybe 3:30 to 4:30, something like that, where I'm on, here's the Zoom link, here's where to find me. If you have questions, log on and ask me questions. I challenge you to be the teacher who has FaceTime with their students and not the teacher who says, email it to me, because that's how I best like to be communicated with. Last bullet there is your digital and audio text. So as you can see here today, we are using closed captioning. This is very simple to turn on, and actually I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to show you. Hoping you can still see my screen here. So closed captioning for this particular thing is done in Microsoft PowerPoint. There's a couple different options for closed captioning that I want to show you today. One is that you just always use subtitles. Turn that on, turn that off. It's under slideshow. It's in Office 365 PowerPoint, and you can also get it as an update, like a plugin if you wanted to. You can actually subtitle in all kinds of languages. You should be able to see my screen there, all kinds of fun languages: Arabic, French, Hindi, Japanese. I'm not going to try those because I do not know. My Spanish is okay, but not phenomenal. You have your microphone, which you can designate which microphone you're looking at, and then you can put it on your bottom, top, below, above. And then there's more settings there to pick different languages. So that is one way to close caption with your digital and audio tech, little fun tip. Another thing you can do is in Google Slides. Everybody see me in Google Slides? You go over to Present. Down here is a little CC button, and you turn on your closed captioning in Google Slides. And so whether you present in PowerPoint or if you present in Google Slides, you do have that option to include closed captioning, which is a phenomenal resource for your students. You're probably noticing that both are pretty good. I do think Google Slides is a little bit quicker and a little bit more accurate, but both PowerPoint and Google Slides do a pretty good job. So we're going to pop back over here. I just wanted to show you that tip because, again, today is about tips and tricks and fun things you can do. Hold on here. Downside of 2 screens is I have to make sure I'm showing you, which you'll find as well. Now, this is something that GoToWebinar has that Zoom does not. So I am able to see what my audience sees, which is really helpful when I don't have anybody from tech support on with me. Zoom does not allow that feature. So if you do have slow internet or if you've locked up for whatever reason, there is that issue of seeing what your audience is seeing. But luckily for you, many of you have students who will happily tell you in the chat or question box how you're doing, right? So what are some other ideas for closed captioning? Do you guys just post in the chat in the question pane there? Do you use closed captioning? And if you do you use PowerPoint or Google Slides? Go ahead and post those in. Oh, YouTube, yes, thank you. So YouTube is a great resource for sharing recordings. So if you have pre-recorded your lessons, you can go to YouTube, upload those. And we're going to talk about that because it's really important that you edit all of your closed captioning if you can. So this is live closed captioning, and it's doing a pretty good job. But when you look at, and I'm going to just skip down there because you all brought it up. So we'll come back. Here we go. So videos are powerful medium for conveying, but again, the issue that I had today with the being able to hear can be an issue. Most of the time, it's one of two things. One, your platform's not allowing you to hear it, or two, the audience is having an issue. One of the things you might want to think about is making sure your volume on your, and telling your students this, okay, we're going to show a video, so let's make sure all of our volume's turned up on our computer, because that does play a role. Zoom does have that option where you can go in and click that you're going to be showing a video, and then make sure that you've also clicked when you set up that webinar, it's a high resolution video, and that's on Zoom webinar. On Zoom meeting, you can do the same, but you don't have the high res option as well as on Zoom webinar that you do on Zoom meeting. So a couple things with videos, and this is just a really important tip. And again, that's what we're talking about today, tips and resources. This is a video scenario that I love to share with you because Cass did this for us, and it's just phenomenal. So the content here is physics. This is what we're talking about is physics. The format is a video. The instructor has gone out and pre-recorded his video. He uploads it to the school's YouTube channel for the students to use. Pretty slick, right? So he is thinking, all right, I'm all taken care of. I'm not going to have to show up for a class during the right time, or maybe it's just a video for extra information, but he posts it, and it's on physics, and he does not caption it. So videos with no captioning or accessibility look like this. So we're going to just pretend this guy is named Newt because it was a Newt demonstration there. And he's talking about physics. And without any captioning, if you had a hearing impairment, or if your speakers weren't working, or if you had a student who had an issue with their technology, could they see what was going on? No, exactly, right. So what can we do? Or what happens when the students turn on the captioning on YouTube? So students turn on the captioning, and what has happened is you've said what is captioned is a stop. So again, is themes like it's trying to make a romaine arrest rather. Now, I don't know about you, but there is not too much about romaine lettuce that has anything to do with physics. So at first glance, you know that there's something wrong with the closed captioning. What this instructor is actually talking about is an item that remains at rest will stay at rest, and an item that remains in motion will stay in motion. It's honestly a really good lecture. However, if the closed captioning is bad, it's as bad as having no closed captioning. So again, if you're going live, closed captioning is fantastic. Google Slides or PowerPoint do a great job. If you're going to pre-record and then share out with closed captioning, be sure you edit. And there's a tool that you can look at captioning in YouTube, and it shows you, and this, when I share this, you'll have this link, how to create captions in YouTube. And there's just some really great things that you can do to enhance that. So how many of you, by a yes or no, have used closed captioning as you present to your students during our lovely era of virtual schooling? Just a couple of you? Okay, how many of you are excited to try closed captioning now that we've shown you how to do it? Hoping that's a couple more. Fantastic. So I want to allow you to ask questions. I want to kind of go back a little bit, but let's move forward from here and talk about things to consider when applying universal design to the classroom. So what UDL tells us is the barrier is in the environment, not the student. And so we want to ensure that the flexibility of the physical learning environment is there. Again, we want to establish those clear learning goals with students. How many of you, show of hands, go ahead and raise your hands, if you always share your learning goals with your students? Or if you've done that prior to today, because I know you might be doing it tomorrow. Ellen, you are knocking it out of the park. Thank you. Anyone else share their learning goals with their students on a regular basis? All right, got a couple more, but that's fantastic. So something you can do, you already have those. I mean, I've been in your shoes. I know where you're coming from. You write your lesson plans up. You know what your learning goals are. Go ahead and share those with your students. Determine types of contexts that best support their learning. We know our students, right? We've all been in class or engaged in class in some form or fashion since around mid-August, most of us anyway. And you know your students pretty well. So determine the types of contexts that best support their learning. So if you can post in the chat, and I should have asked this when we started, what CTE or what course do you teach? What subject do you teach? You want to post that in there. Show me who I have in my audience today. I can see your names. I just can't see where you're from or what you teach. If you haven't noticed, all of these fun things that I'm doing are modeling application of universal design. So having you post in that question box, having you tell me things about your self so we can discuss what best content meets your needs, giving you examples, having you raise your hands are all mechanisms of engagement that really are pretty simple, right? You probably did it without thinking, wow, she's leading by showing us universal design. But that's really it. It's not magic. It's not going to take a rocket to the moon, but it is going to make a big difference in the lives of your students. So think about those little things that you can do. Something as simple as show of hands or comment in there. So let's see, we have communication management and organization development. Wow, fantastic subject. And there was a question about how we're doing closed captioning the webinar, so we covered that. Keep the questions coming and the topics going. Oh, we have a welding instructor. That is a challenging topic to teach remotely. So kudos to you for your tenacious perseverance there. So determine the types of content that best support their learning and look at ways in which you can support their learning. This next one here is consider together all the assessments. So when we talk about universal design, we talk about multiple means of engagement and multiple means of assessment. And so allowing the students to have options or variability within their assessment is really important. When I was in college, I had an instructor who we were learning, and I don't remember the subject exactly, but there were a set of principles that we had to learn and then apply. And my degree was in historical policy analysis and education and all that fun stuff. And he said the final was whatever we wanted it to be. A little broad there, not saying you need to go that broad, but whatever you want it to be, but you have to demonstrate to me that you understand these 5 foundational principles of, let's say, economic design or something. That's universal design, like on a huge scale. But consider together the assessment types. Are we going to take a standardized test? Are we going to do a presentation? Are they going to act things out? I believe I shared on Tuesday when I taught a class for pre-service teachers, and it was social foundations of education. And again, we're looking at the ways in which you engage with students. And again, the idea of having 3 or 4 principles that they needed to share and pick one to explain at length. And I gave them kind of the sky's the limit. You hear some ideas, and I had students who, you know, had pre-recorded everything and when came in, turned on YouTube and showed me the video that they put together. I had other students who acted out a play. I had students who wrote a song and then did a full dance routine to the song. Definite multiple means of assessment for those particular options. And does that work every single time? Maybe not, but every once in a while, it's a good idea. And if you can do it more than less, it's even a better idea. And then back to that point of agreed upon purpose of feedback and grades. So we want to be sure that our students know that feedback is coming, right? We want to be sure that students have an expectation as to when they will receive that feedback. And we want to help our students understand what those grades mean. Is an A, is an A, is an A? Or are you a teacher who says an A is this quality of work? So I practice what I preach. In my syllabus, it says an A work, A written work, or A grade equals these things. B level work equals these things. C level work means these things. D level work means these things, and on and on. So be thinking about that, talking about what the purpose of the feedback is, but also defining those grades and making them more objective with your curriculum and less subjective. That also is a nice CYA thing for engagement with parents. So any questions so far? Any burning questions out there? I know we're kind of all over the spectrum today, and really just kind of sharing out some resources and covering as much as we can fit in here. But I want to answer any questions you have as well. Okay, I'm going to continue to move forward, and we've got about 10 minutes left, so I don't want to take up too much more. I don't want to go over. I'm a educator at heart and in practice, so we start on time, we end on time, and we get as much content in as we can in the middle. This is just a fun tip, audio descriptors. So if you have ever, and not that I'm paid by the Today Show or anything, but if you've heard Willie Geist do his Sunday broadcast on the Today Show, and he's usually interviewing somebody who is some form of celebrity, but he does a really great job of audio descriptors. So as he's walking into their home, he's describing what it looks like. As he's engaging with them, he describes, you know, oh, you seem surprised yet engaged. You seem taken back by that. It's been a little bit more challenging for him in the virtual world that we've been living in since March, but at the same time, he still is doing that, and he is very, very good at it. And so one of the tips is to add those audio descriptors into your lecture, and be sure, as especially those of you who are demonstrating things, those of you who are walking the students through what would be or could be their lab work when they are back on face-to-face with you, is add in those audio descriptors. Add in, you know, the room is set like this, or however it's set. You know, I'm sitting in my office today. For some reason, the person who controls the thermostat in my office has decided that it's heat weather, so the heat is on in my office today, which makes it very warm. And I'm trying to, I don't know, makes, you know, whatever you're doing for your curriculum that day. If you're welding, if you're working with something with a communication strategy, whatever you're working on, but give those narrative descriptors, talking about who's in the room, what the physical space looks like, maybe even looking at their expressions. Have your students turn on their cameras and have you turn on your camera. It does really add to the experience of engagement. Couple additional resources here. That is the link to the free UDL resources. And let me, I want to go back there. I think I have that in the chat. If not, I'll get that in the chat to you. And then the first one is a phenomenal video. It's on YouTube, and it's done by McGill University. And if you're ever wondering what universal design looks like, if it was just embraced across campus, that is what you're looking at. So McGill University looked at universal design across the board. And so it is in everything from admissions to financial assistance to engagement with students to faculty to everything. And you are in that video, you get to see from all perspectives of the university. It's a really great video. The free UDL resources was that link I did post in the chat, and that's the one that we just went to and shared all those fun resources. And then the handouts are all from those as well. So be sure you're downloading those. Then this last article here is Universal Design for Learning in a Post-Secondary Education, Reflections on Principles and Their Application. I understand that it is 2006, and I understand that that is 14 years old. And I understand that those of you who are true researchers, and I do consider myself one, that is way outdated, right? You're saying 10 years is the most, 7 years is good, 5 years is better. But, and I say this is a big but, oh, see, with my closed captioning there, when I say it with a big but, it has 2 T's. You got to always edit your closed captioning. Anyway, it's a phenomenal resource. It is very relevant, especially in the world that we live in today. So I do encourage you to check that out. And yes, I'm not above pointing out if my closed captioning is not capturing exactly what I'm saying. So as we wrap up today, and I do encourage you to post any questions you have in the chat box, anything that you have left, that I've left unaddressed in the chat box, and I'm happy to answer those for you. Universal design is not a checklist, so it's not going to be a list of things you can do. We've covered some strategies today. I've shared some resources today. If there's any questions that you have moving forward, I'm going to give you my email. Please reach out to me. I'm here as a resource for you. Universal design, the reason it is so embedded right now in career and technical education is in Perkins 4, it was mentioned. In Perkins 5, it was actually a declaration and really part of the law. So in Perkins 4, we talked a lot about universal design, and there was a lot of work being done saying it's a great lens, it's a great equity lens, we should really look at this. In Perkins 5, it shifted to we're doing this. And so within career and technical education, you are looking at universal design for learning, and you're really looking at the way in which you can engage with universal design. So we're here to support you. We are the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. We are your Equity Professional Development Support Center, and we're here to support you. I want to be clear, though, it's not a checklist. It's not a compliance thing. It's not something that you are one and done. It is truly a lens by which you view the world and by which you engage with the world. Next point is we want to teach students how to learn, not just what to learn. Ellen, you shared with us that you are communication management. That is huge. I work with several adults who could use your training. And so we want to make sure that we teach students how to learn, not just what to learn, because if we've learned nothing from COVID, we have learned that education is needed for flexibility, and education is needed for keeping up, and we have to change and be flexible, because sometimes your whole world turns upside down and you have to adapt. And then UDL varies in every context, and small changes make a big difference. And that is true in the architectural realm. With universal design, there are hammers that you can use and buy that are designed to make sure you don't get tennis elbow, which when you get to be my age, that's important. There are can openers that you can buy that address and support not getting arthritis in your fingers. But think about all these wonderful ways in which we use universal design. And I also want you to think about universal design of that application of equity and how equity is not equality. Equality is that idea that everyone gets the same thing. And I know we talked a lot about this on Tuesday, so I'm not going to go into it in a big deal, but I do want to talk about that idea of if everyone gets the same thing, that's not necessarily what's best for everybody. And so, for example, if I said all of you are going to get a new pair of shoes, every one of you, I'm going to send you out a pair of shoes. They're all size 8. And they are all Nikes, and they're all red, and they're phenomenal. So how many of you would that work for? Show of hands. Anybody would that work for? Not seeing a single hand going up. So the point is that if you give everyone the same thing, that doesn't really help everyone. So equity is everyone getting what they need to be successful. So maybe in that shoe analogy, you need a size 7 or you need a size 6, or maybe you don't need a tennis shoe. Maybe you're more comfortable in a work boot or something like that. So making sure that you're being equitable in your distribution of content and equitable in your curriculum is really important. Universal design for learning is an approach. It's a scientific framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all. By doing these small little things, you will really improve your teaching and learning for all of your students by setting clear and rigorous goals, anticipating barriers, and proactively designing to minimize those barriers. So with that, this last couple minutes, I want to ask you, do you have a takeaway from today, and what questions do you have? Have any questions? Go ahead and post those in the question box or raise your hand. I'm happy to unmute you. And then I want to share with you this page. This is our universal design page. So there's that link there. You can Google ICSPS. We are icsps.illinoisstate, all one word, .edu, and universal design. All the resources from this program, all of the recordings from this program, all the videos that we shared are up there, as well as some additional resources that we have been doing throughout the course of the year. Any questions as we wrap up? So with that, I want to thank you all for your attendance and time today. I want you to think about how we have engaged with universal design in just our short time together. The raising of the hands, the using the chat box, the closed captioning, the showing of video, even though it was for a brief time, but that was only because I was moving around with a lot of screens, was all ways in which we can engage with universal design. So those small changes do make a huge difference for you and for your students. With that, I thought I had my email on there. I'll post my email here in the chat. And I do encourage you, if you have any questions, please reach out. I am happy to answer those for you. Oh, sorry, and I hit. I have the .edu on there. And with that, have a great day, be safe, be well, and have a great afternoon. Thank you for your time.